Hey, Inspired Moneymaker. Today's guest has never had a boss, makes his own hours, and doesn't even own an alarm clock. Tune in to learn how he's built successful online businesses, startup companies, and invests his money. Episode 213 features Yaro Starak, entrepreneur, coach, and angel investor.
And I felt like I'd kind of won at the casino, and it's a nice way to transfer winnings at the crypto casino into something physical, tangible, helping the environment, helping the country. Thankfully, I'd pulled out half of all my money in crypto to cover the solar plant, because I then watched the other half almost disappear. In fact, I think I lost about 65% of the second half of my investment before I pulled that out as well. So I was able to exit with a nice big windfall to start a solar power plant, but I really, would not have done that if I didn't have that reason to exit. I would have been like most people, holding on with the greed. I want more, I want more, I want more.
I'm Andy Wong, host of the Inspired Money podcast and financial advisor at Runnymede Capital Management. Today's guest is Yaro. Since he was 18 years old, he's made money creating online businesses, from selling trading cards to launching the first blog coaching program. By age 30, he'd made $1 million as a digital nomad, living in Paris, London, New York, Chicago, Singapore, Dubai, Athens, Toronto, Hawaii, and Amsterdam. In this episode, you'll learn finding the right blend of money, freedom, and passion for a business, how crypto trading profits led to a solar energy project in the Ukraine, and Yaro's latest venture, a business that helps people to achieve inbox zero. Now let's get inspired with Yaro Starak. Yaro, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Andy. I'm looking forward to diving in.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
For me, it was definitely playing Monopoly with my family. The goal to, acquire as much properties and, the land, and then generate revenues from that. That was fun from a very early age. And I don't know why, but I also answered the question, what do you want to do when you grow up, which you always get asked as a kid, with, I want to be a banker. But I said that because the bankers got to play with money. And I don't know where I got that from. It could have been from movies, watching Disney shows where there was a banker involved. I feel like Mary Poppins might have been, one of those sources. So that was the very, very early day stuff.
Well, you are considered the OG of successfully monetizing an online business, and that includes personal brand, email marketing, blogging. Have you ever had a 9-to-5 job? How did you get started?
No, I thankfully avoided the 9-to-5. Had some part-time jobs, so, casual work while I was in university, while I was trying to get my own things going. But, my goal, actually, I'm one of those people who like to avoid things I don't like than necessarily drive for things I do want. At least early on, I certainly was. So my goal was never have a boss, never have a cap on my income potential, make my own hours, especially never having an alarm to wake up. So those were very, very important to me. And then I was a little bit lucky. I knew I had to do something independently, probably, be an entrepreneur, but the internet was becoming, a place to do commerce. I was 18 in 1998. For those people still alive who remember that was the dotcom boom, the first one. I'm sure you remember it, Andy. I don't know how old you are, but I think you'll remember it. And I was, a young guy, got exposed to a young internet, and it was very exciting. And of course, I started my own website, not expecting it to be like, a big funded company like nowadays, hear about, or even back then you hear about. It was more of a hobby. It was about a card game called Magic the Gathering. I played it while I was at university. And that was my first kind of foray into owning a web property. And it did become certainly an income source. I don't really call it a business, even though it kind of was. I had a store selling cards. I had advertisers paying me money to put banners on my site, back when banners were a thing. And it was my proving ground for learning about how to get traffic to a website, how to find someone who will, buy something from me, or advertisers who will sponsor my site. And that kind of kicked off the career in online marketing. And I never really stopped since then.
I remember the dot-com bubble well. I think I'm about 7 years older than you. That's my guess.
So you would have been 25 then. You would have been a
Yes.
good age for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you started with the sort of card website. It got you into e-commerce, and then you started a proofreading business.
Yeah, that was the next thing. So I wasn't interested in the game, the card game as much as I got older. I eventually sold my cards, didn't play tournaments anymore. So I wanted to start what I called a real business. And that was a bit of learning from other people. I was studying through books, like the story of eBay, the story of Amazon, and a lot of other smaller internet companies that were sort of coming and going that I could find any book about. And I just read and read and read and loved it all. And I really enjoyed the eBay story because of this idea of a marketplace, a many to many business where you've got many buyers and many sellers and you're a middle person in that. And that's what kind of inspired creating an online essay and thesis editing company. I'll be honest though, the first idea was literally a language translation / editing, / any kind of freelance writing type service, and started with that and then learned about niche marketing, refining down to what people want. So it became like an academic editing business. And I had a team of editors. I built the website. I put up posters around university campuses. And it became my first full-time income. It wasn't millions of dollars, but it certainly was how I paid for my rent, my food, was able to move out of my parents' house and, start a real life, I guess, as I was in university and then after I graduated as well.
I found I found a 2015 Business Insider article, and the title was "How I Earned Up to $50,000 a Month While Traveling the World." In that, the reporter wrote, "I was 25 and had realized my goal, freedom. I didn't need a job and I was in charge of how I lived. There was one problem. I was miserable. Something was missing." Was something missing?
Well, 25 was actually, kind of a pivotal point. I'd achieved not financial independence, but certainly a sense of creating a business that was fueling a lifestyle I enjoyed. I could travel, I could feed myself, and so on. But I thought about my future. I have this company that, as much as I enjoyed growing it and I enjoyed making money, I wasn't really passionate about the subject matter of what I was doing. I was basically trying to sell editing and proofreading services, which is an important service, but just wasn't as exciting and dynamic in what I was interested in. And that just kind of highlighted to me that there was kind of three things I needed to get right with business. One was obviously the financial aspect. Two was the freedom aspect. I didn't want to be trapped to a business 12 hours a day, like a lot of entrepreneurs I saw, they were having that experience. And three, which is the one I was really missing, an aspect of the business that I was driven to continue to grow and excel and evolve as my role in the company. And even as an owner of the business, was I excited to be the owner long term? And I was missing in that business. And that's actually why around that time, I was 25, it was 2005, I came across blogging by accident, like I guess most people probably did with blogging when it first came about, and then social media afterwards. It was just something that sort of ballooned. A friend of mine introduced me to this idea of, you should create a blog, you'll get free traffic from search engines, you'll grow your company. So I thought, okay, well, I'm the marketing guy, I'll experiment. And I installed a blog on my editing company, but I didn't really understand like what I see a website, I see a blog, they look like the same thing. I had to really experience it and realize, oh, it's about leaving comments. Oh, it's about interacting with other blogs and sort of being part of a discussion, which was, as funny as that sounds, that's so common today through social media and everything. Back then, websites were static. You didn't really leave comments. You might write an email to the author of an article, but that's about as far as it went. So I got involved with blogging, tried to write about essays and my target customers' needs, which are my international students, lasted about 3 months and then just really cemented this idea. I do not like this industry that I'm in. Started a blog on entrepreneurship, not necessarily thinking it would become a business, which it ended up becoming, but it was a place to experiment with writing about a topic I did care about, which was entrepreneurship, in particular online entrepreneurship. And that blog worked. It was called entrepreneurs-journey.com. Terrible domain name. honestly, I didn't know what I was, thinking about the future. I wasn't in terms of that domain name, but it became a brand for me. And I excelled with that primarily because I had 7 years to that point of growing this card game website, of growing this editing company. I had stories to share about, what was working, how I was coming up with my pricing model, how I was doing search engine optimization to get customers, to the editing business, how I initially sourced product, for my card game business, and some of the pitfalls and the good things and the bad things that happened there. So these were stories, and I just shared these stories through blog posts, not coming into it as a writer though. So that was the other thing, discovering that, oh my gosh, I actually enjoy content creation, which helped. So if you kind of fast forward 2 years, I sold everything but the blog business. I sold the essay editing company. I sold the card business. Actually, before that, it was earlier, I sold that. I had a few side hustle investment websites that I sold as well, and just went 100% into this space of basically being what you'd call today a content creation, an influencer, a micro-influencer, creator, as is commonly called, and then built an education business behind that. So selling courses, ebooks, and so on. And that was the next 10 years of my life, basically selling that, running that business.
That business was that the entrepreneur journey business, or was that teaching people how to monetize a blog?
So it started with the blog, and then I started a podcast, very early days. So as you can imagine what we're doing now, it was literally when the iPod was the tool that you listened to podcasts. And what I did was I learned about email marketing for the first time. I really love that. I discovered this idea that you could grow a newsletter, grow a following, segment your list, and you could sell digital products. So, I had a few mentors around that time as well. They were running membership sites online, and they were using email marketing to acquire members and, grow a community. So it took a while, but I grew an audience through the blog, and then I decided to add the newsletter. So I grew a subscription audience as well. So I had these people paying attention to me. And I'll be honest, it took a while. I didn't have the self-confidence initially to create a teaching course based on my own skill set, because I never saw myself as a coach or a mentor or a teacher. So I had to get kind of past that mental roadblock, which I did. And I released a course called Blog Mastermind, which was really just teaching what you can do with a blog to grow an audience, and then how you can use that audience to basically sell anything you want, whether it was digital products, e-commerce products, services. It was just about making the connection through mostly the written word, and podcasting to a degree as well. It changed. I did a newer version later on, and I focused a bit more on email marketing and segmentation and automation and things like that. But the initial version, which I had amazingly 400 students sign up for version 1.0, which really was a validation for me, was a lot about basically content marketing 101 at the time. And that was amazing. And just to answer your question, the company was called Blog Mastermind. It actually still is. I still have that company, Blog Mastermind Ltd. But it was around my personal brand. So you'd kind of call it a Yaro coaching, teaching, content creation business.
And that business has kind of ebbed and flowed a few times. That's my understanding. You've grown it, then you kind of weren't sure what to do with it. You sort of had like a 2.0.
Yeah, good research, Andy. Here, you really, the fine details. I mean, I guess you could call it seasons would be the way to put it. So I had a growth, learning how it works season from 2005 to 2007. Then I kind of was a teacher and created products. So I ended up creating 2 courses. One was Blog Mastermind. Another one was a video course on a similar topic I did with a friend of mine named Gideon Shalwick. And we ended up selling between those courses over $1 million worth of courses. And that ran for about 5, maybe 4 years. So it brought me up to about 2011. And then I realized, okay, these courses are getting dated. Gideon and I didn't really want to update one course. So we shut everything down in terms of the training courses. And I actually, to be honest, I wanted to do a startup at that point. So I kind of switched modes. I essentially did the whole let's do a startup, got 2 co-founders. One was a programmer, one was a more graphical, web interface designer. And we were going to do an ad management platform specifically to link bloggers with advertisers. So I have an audience of people who, wanted to learn how to blog, and I was going to connect the two. And I'll cut to the, long story short about that startup. We did it for about 2 years, and engineering was very difficult. Me not being a programmer, kind of relying on my co-founder, the speed of iteration was so slow. We reached the point where we had to either raise funding to increase our capacity on engineering, or shut it down, or exit some way. And after we talked about it, we decided, we want to exit because we don't want the responsibility of the investors, feeling that accountability to them if we're not all in on this idea and seeing where it goes. And frankly, myself and my two co-founders weren't. We were almost feeling like we were a bit late to the game, and things were changing. And that's what then led to a 2.0, kind of a renaissance of the course. And I'll be honest, I was very doubtful because the internet had moved on. There was new people in the space. The industry had evolved. But I did one thing. I went back and sent an email to all my previous customers and asked, hey, is there anyone in there who has a success story to share? Have you grown a blog? Have you built a business around it? Have you made at least $100,000, from that business? If you have, I'd love to have you as a guest on my podcast. And I did that, A, for my podcast, but B, just to see, did I impact people? Was there a result from my courses? And I was so gratified to have I think I did end up 10 or 20 of these interviews, ranging from $1 million businesses to, multiple six-figure businesses in all kinds of different subjects, from speed reading to sports betting, to business coaching for women, to skincare, dissociative disorder, all these different subjects. And these people all used the blog, all taken my course. Obviously, I can't take credit for their success, but I was a part of it. And it was so motivational. So I really wanted to dive back into coaching. And then I created a new version of the course. And that was kind of like the second half, the second season. And actually, it's funny, as you catch me now, I'm pretty much retiring that coaching business. It is really retired. I haven't focused on it for 5 years because my current company, Inbox Done, has been my main focus since about 2017. So it's probably an end of an era for Yaro as a coach, but it was a great ride.
I'm curious to know, when you sent out those emails and got those success stories back, how does that play into sort of your ego? Since you came to this online business game so early, and you've seen the growth, you've seen many people build big businesses, build huge personal brands. And I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that even of your students, you found after the fact, by putting out this email, you found people that made it much bigger than you had even imagined.
Yeah, I mean, ego in a validating kind of, it's not like I'm selling some kind of formula that doesn't work. You as a coach, and especially in the space of teaching internet marketing, there's so much going on in that space where it's people selling products that's based on the hype and the idea and the excitement of online business, knowing that most people never actually execute on the training or even open the product after they buy it. And, some people, unfortunately, they deliberately prey on that type of person with, we've all seen the YouTube commercials. You can make $1,000 a day by following this formula. And it wasn't any different to when I started. There was all these similar ideas. And I wanted to know that I was seeing my students, at least some of them, even if it was 1%, which frankly, it probably was, because only 1% will actually follow through. But you want to make sure there are those success stories, because it validates you as a teacher. It validates a system that you believe in too, and it can work for not just you. I really didn't want to be one of those people who was teaching how to make money simply by teaching how to make money. That to me was, I wanted to feel like, no, I'm teaching how to make money because it's a formula, a system that's applicable to different people from different backgrounds in different industries, selling different things, but we're all doing the same thing. We're writing a blog, we're growing an audience, we're creating content. Of course, that's expanded today to social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, of course, podcasting, whatever content you create. And then we're using that connection with people to sell something. And of course, today, so many influencers will start an e-commerce business on the back of their business. Some, like most of the students I had, they were more education orientated. So they would sell courses, ebooks, coaching, mentorship programs, mastermind groups, that sort of thing. But if you have the audience and they care to learn from you or buy from you, it is certainly a super viable model today. For me, like, as much as I enjoyed that career, I also wanted to start other businesses, which is why in the last few years I have kind of changed gears. But I still think it's a great space to be in if you love teaching and coaching and creating content.
You launched your podcast at a time when you said people were listening on iPods. Like, things have changed so dramatically. How do you, like, but yet you feel like the opportunity is still there. How are things different today than back in 2005 or 2006?
The key difference, honestly, I think almost all of it's the same. Like, I was interviewing people much like we're doing now, and I could point out, sure, we're on better technology. We're doing video. The video looks better. It's easier to produce. It's easier to share. But I don't think that was the main difference. It's simply that podcasting has become a mainstream media consumption method, where it wasn't in the past. It was very niche. Most people didn't listen to podcasts on a daily basis. And that's for many reasons. Spotify, obviously, supporting it so much. Apple now finally really becoming, supporting it as well with their apps and their ecosystem. People just hearing about it. Serial as a podcast exploding into the mainstream, which makes people look for more podcasts. So all these variables have kind of come together that make the audience size grow, which means all of us have the opportunity to reach an audience, and whatever size we go after. It can be our main business. It could be a marketing channel. It can be a networking tool. I don't know how you've used yours, Dandy. I was actually looking through some of your guests, and it was funny. I saw you've got Tony Horton on there, and I was just doing a P90X exercise before I jumped in this call with you, and I was like, oh, small world. And I think it's amazing that you got to speak to Tony because of your podcast. How cool is that? So it's still one of my favorite vehicles for connecting with people. And I rebranded and relaunched my own podcast just in the last 6 months. So it's been, 15 years since I started the first version of it. So it's a slow burn for me.
That's great. Yes, Tony Horton was a highlight for me, since I had exercised in my basement for many hours, and then to actually have him speaking back to me instead of just yelling exercises at me was a very cool experience. Yeah. So by age 30, you had made $1 million in your businesses. And I know that you were also involved in investing in cryptocurrency. So before talking about some of your current businesses, tell us a little bit about investing in crypto and how that played into your investing of your money and growing your own money. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a gap. So when I was 30, it was 2010, and I didn't know about crypto at all. It was, I know Bitcoin existed then, but I didn't know about it then. I wish I did, obviously. So the way it worked for me, up until maybe 30, 31, 32, I was all in on my coaching business and so on. I did a little bit of investing, but to be honest, I was always reinvesting cash, and I bought the place I lived in. I bought an investment property. But after that, there's kind of like a period of, long story short, I left Australia in 2015, and then I came to Canada via San Francisco and Hong Kong and Japan. But I ended up in Toronto around 2016. And, I had more liquid assets available to me then. I'd sold my properties in Australia. I'd exit from my very first ever angel investment. So I had some cash, and I honestly I was going to put in ETFs. I was going to maybe, buy property in Canada, but Vancouver, Toronto, crazy prices. And then I'm at this networking event, and I'm introduced to a guy who basically is talking about Ethereum, in fact, and crypto as well. And by then I'd known about crypto. It was kind of just before that 2017 sort of first, not the first rush, but the first public rush, I feel, to crypto with ICOs and so on. And he was talking about Ethereum. And I personally thought I'd missed Bitcoin. It was at $2,000. It was $200 only a year or two before that, I thought, if I've missed a 10x run up, how much further has this got to go? So obviously, hindsight, that was a fallacy, but that's the case may be. I learned about Ethereum and I was like, okay, maybe this is the second chance. Maybe it's the silver to this gold that is Bitcoin. I didn't really understand smart contracts to a technical level, but I understood there was an extra layer with Ethereum beyond what Bitcoin was doing as a store of value. The biggest challenge was actually, how do I buy some? And honestly, that was my initial roadblock. I at first used a platform called eToro, which some of your listeners might know about. Funnily enough, it's no longer available in Canada, but at the time it was, and it's big in Europe. It's kind of like the Robinhood of Europe. And I had some caps, but I basically, long story short, was able to slowly acquire Ethereum. And it was crazy because I registered an account with eToro. Ethereum was $8. I took about 3 days for my money to transfer into the platform. By then, Ethereum was $18. By the time I was able to buy my first, whatever it was, I probably bought it 22, and then I bought it 28, and then I bought it 35, and then 50, and then 75. And I'm just buying these portions as it goes up. And it was a weird time because that was 2017. I was traveling around the world. I was in Europe. I was attending Eurovision. I was visiting Ukraine. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying this experience of making $100,000 in one day from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins, and then losing 50,000 the next day, and like wild amounts of money, which my younger self would have been like, the stress would have been too much. But it wasn't my entire net worth, but it was still like significant enough money that I'm going, wow, this is an adrenaline rush. But I did feel like a casino. I'll be absolutely honest. I'm like, this can't last. And just to kind of close the loop on the story, as we know, 2018 January was when the crash happened. I think I'm getting the dates right there. That version of a crash of the cryptocurrencies anyway. And I, through my travels to Ukraine, had connected with a person. Long story short, we had decided to take advantage of a local program to encourage green energy to build a solar plant. Now, that was very left field for me. Never done anything in the physical space, but I loved the idea of investing in green energy. My father was born in Ukraine, so it's sort of helping his homeland. I was enjoying living in Ukraine, getting to know this kind of place that I have some family history. And I felt like I had kind of won at the casino, and it's a nice way to transfer winnings at the crypto casino into something physical, tangible, helping the environment, helping the country. So I promised myself and my partner in that project that I will take out the money we need to get this started, basically. So thankfully, I pulled out half of all my money in crypto to cover the solar plant, because I then watched the other half almost disappear. In fact, I think I lost about 65% of the second half of my investment before I pulled that out as well. So I was able to exit with a nice big windfall to start a solar power plant, but I really would not have done that if I didn't have that reason to exit. I would have been like most people, holding on with the greed. I want more, I want more, I want more. So it was really eye-opening, especially now as we're going through, I guess, whatever version of a crypto explosion that we're in as we record this. And I still have some money in there to kind of temper expectations, set goals for when to exit, why you're exiting, and so on. But was it a fun ride. And I have a solar plant now built in Ukraine, which has been running for a couple of years, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. And this solar plant that you built, it's all, not only is it green, but it's also a form of passive income. It should be generating a stream of income for you. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's about close to a definition of pure passive income as I've ever seen, right? You put up these solar panels, the sun shines, and you get income back. It's pretty straightforward. You have to pay off loans. So we are in partnership with another, like a green energy expertise company in Ukraine. So we're like partners 50-50 in that installation. We have bank loans. So it's like a 3.6 megawatt solar farm, about $3.5 million. I think it's US dollars to set up all that. And then first of all, you get the money back that pays off the loans, and then you get I won't go into details of my company structure because my company actually funded a loan to my Ukrainian company, yada, yada, yada. But long story short is once loans are paid back, it's essentially, there's a 10-year period of this tariff that you get back. after the 10 years, you get whatever the market rates are for green energy or for solar energy at the time. So I don't know what the future looks like. Besides, I know I'll get my investment back, plus I'll get probably double that in return, and then whatever the going rate is for I don't know how many years. That being said, there's always opportunities to potentially sell the plant as well. So I don't know, where things will go, but it certainly is hands off. And even to set it up, it was kind of hands off because I wasn't, my partner was the guy on the ground sourcing the land, confirming contracts, working with our partners, and so on. So yeah, it was nice to add some pictures to the website and be able to talk about it and even just get into something that's not digital. I think that was one of the most exciting things about it.
How long do you expect it will take to recoup your investment, and then you're just collecting, I guess, the energy fees?
Profits, basically, yeah. It depends on, it's funny, it depends on the ray of the sun. So it's around about 4 years to pay off all initial loans to the banks to set up, and also to pay back my loan, because my investment in the company is actually technically a loan. So I started getting back loan repayments from day one. And then once we hit about year 4 or 5, it kind of changes depending on sun and, interest rates and so on. Then it'll be essentially, I say pure profit, but we obviously have to pay taxes on that. I start splitting it with my partner as well, because he basically did it for almost nothing, because he was like a sweat equity partner. So, he doesn't get profits until he reached that point after loans. So year 4, year 5 will be pure profit. But for me, because I'm getting back the cryptocurrency gambling winnings, I say that in jest, it does feel like even when I get loan repayments back, it's kind of like, oh, I'm getting my my gambling money back as well. So
that's really cool. Any comments on, do you have a long-term view of blockchain and crypto, and any advice, since you alluded to having sort of target prices to get out or to invest?
Yeah, this is an evolving answer for me. I feel like we're finally starting to see actual use cases. And I'm not super excited about any of them yet. Like, I don't think NFTs that are based on drawings of apes or kitties or things like that, it's cool, but it's not changing the world in any kind of dramatic way. NBA, NFTs of NBA players and, moves and things like that. It's a little bit better because it kind of aligns with collecting sports memorabilia, and we're digitizing that. I'm still interested in the day where I will literally on a regular basis use crypto either to buy something in the shops or, I don't know, some kind of interface with my electricity bill. I'm not even sure, or something completely revolutionary will come along. I mean, I was even thinking right now, I kind of wish I didn't have to use the banks. If there was a reliable, trusted, independent, as we say, not non-centralized, decentralized bank type function, which is coming obviously with DeFi. I just wouldn't trust it to say, put all my money into a DeFi platform to say earn interest and feel like it's a secure place for long-term, safety, like I might a bank right now. But I hate the bank fees. I hate going to the bank and sending a wire and paying $10 to one bank, $50 to another, just to move my money from one place to the other. So I really feel the banking system, the finance system, that is ripe for, I don't like using the word disrupted, improved using cryptocurrency is one area. And then there's all the things I don't even really know or understand that I'm sure is coming down the track that we, like, for example, maybe insurance, and the way we can underwrite insurance will be changed completely because all the information will be on the blockchain. Therefore, it will all be public. Therefore, there'll be this massive database of public information about what it does, what are the ramifications of a house burning down, or some kind of insurance claim happens, and that will ultimately reduce premiums for everyone. That might happen. So I'm looking for those kind of use cases. Right now, I still see most of the way I use it is a speculative asset class. So yes, I've got money in Bitcoin, I've got it in Ethereum, I've got it in Polkadot, I've got it in Theta, all these things that some of them have an underlying platform that might become useful, but the proof is in the result. And I personally haven't felt like it's impacted my life. And everyone says it's like the new internet, the way the dot-com bubble, as we started this conversation, was. I still haven't seen where's the Amazon of crypto, where Amazon completely changed the way we buy things. So I want something to come out of crypto where I say it completely changed the way I do something about my life. And I haven't yet had that happen. And I think we need that to happen for it to really feel like a revolution.
I think it's coming. It's a matter of time, and we'll see how quickly things happen. Even with the internet, it was crazy because the dot-com boom and bust, it was about 10 to 15 years later where it was becoming a reality. Because during the bubble, it was about eyeballs and it was a lot of vapor, right? There were businesses that had no business plan, that had crazy stock valuations. But 15 years later, it was real. You actually had companies that were profitable, and the internet actually became something. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. There's a good point there too, where we don't know where crypto might, like the back end will be crypto, the front end will be something we're kind of used to experiencing. Like basically we see the app side, but the cloud server side is totally driven by crypto. And it's because it's crypto, it's so much better, but we don't necessarily as a general consumer see the difference. We just have this great interface and we use it. I can imagine a bank being like that. If I have online banking, it's actually a decentralized crypto behind it and I'm using it for my day-to-day banking. My experience of it probably won't be any different from I use TD here in Canada, but I'm on a decentralized platform with better interest rates, better currency transfers, maybe instant mortgages and loans and things like that. So I could see that happening. And you're right, that would be like the internet layer years later actually changing how we actually get a use case out of it.
So Yaro, I want to talk about your current business, Inbox Done. It was about a year ago I read David Allen's book, Get Things Done. And in that, the idea of Inbox Zero came up. So I've been trying to get to Inbox Zero for 12 months.
What's stopping you, Andy?
I've gotten it to like below 500 from, that sounds crazy, right? But I think I was at like 30,000. So I made measurable progress.
Yeah.
But every time I take a breather and can't address it on a daily basis, I'm over 1,000 again. So I'm sort of wavering between, all right, I got to get it down, but it's a struggle. So tell us about this business that you've created, because I think for many listeners and viewers, it's like a dream come true. It certainly is for me. I haven't tried it yet, but the idea is really stands out.
Yeah, you sound like a potential good candidate, Andy. We should have a discovery call if you'd like to do
Test
one.
case.
Yeah. And we work with people in finance too. We've actually got some venture capital and angel investing and financial institution type companies working often with one person. It's the one individual who wants to break free from email, basically. But the short answer is, I actually really like the idea. We have an article on this on our website where Inbox Zero as a concept, it's really a philosophy and a process and not an outcome, because Inbox Zero, sure, it's zero for that 1 second that it goes down to zero, but then 5 minutes later, another email pops in, right? So Inbox Zero is really a philosophy about realizing if you're the one doing your email, you will never truly have Inbox Zero, because especially if you're a successful person like yourself, Andy, you're clearly getting all these emails because some of it's from potential clients or current clients. Some of it's from, people who are partners, investors, potential investments, things you do need to be involved with. And then everything else, questions that you probably shouldn't be the one answering, but you do. Some of it's customer support, some of it's research, newsletters. We all get all kinds of different emails. So I'm the actual test case for this. Back with my essay editing company, I wanted the freedom to travel. And whenever I did that, I would be stuck using my email all day, because that business in particular, a job would come in and the client would need it back in 12 hours. And I had to make sure that my contractor could do it in time. I had to make sure the money came in to pay for it. forward emails back and forth. And if I wasn't on that, it would not happen. So we wouldn't make any money. So I was kind of trapped to the inbox. And I said, this is crazy. I wanted to build a business for freedom. I need to simplify. I need to get out of the inbox as my to-do list. And the only way to do that, there was no software that would break me free. It had to be a human being. So I ended up hiring a stay-at-home mom, a friend of mine, and it was an experiment. I didn't know whether I could trust someone to reply to emails for me. There's a privacy issue, having a third party see the financial information, my customer information, all this data. So I went through a careful handover process. It took about a month. I taught her how to reply to all the common questions using the way I was already replying. I taught her the context of what she was doing, so she understood the big picture of my business and wasn't just like a robot replying with templates. And that was important because I wanted her to potentially solve problems without coming back to me, potentially get a customer to sign up without being dynamic and being a little bit intelligent with how she responded, not just templates. So we did that. Took about a month. And then I woke up on a Monday morning, rolled out of bed, turned on my computer, and my inbox was at 0 straight away in that Monday. And I was like, is something wrong with my website? Why don't we have any emails? And of course, I then went, oh no, I hired someone. She's gotten into the inbox before I have. And then I was like, wow, what do I do with my day? And it's funny because my whole career in blogging would not have started if I didn't hand that over, because suddenly I had time and I was able to explore things like creating content, a podcast, and all that. And then going forward, my coaching and education business, we had 3 people managing customer service and email, so we could do 24/7 support during the peak time of that business. So it always was something I naturally did. The idea for the business, inboxdone.com, came about 4 or 5 years ago when I was in Vancouver at a networking event, and we were all entrepreneurs, and the woman next to me was talking about her problems. She said, the number one issue is I wake up in the morning and I spend 2 hours doing my email, and then I'm in and out of my inbox throughout the day, and then I go home and I spend some time with my family, put the kids to bed, and then I do 2 more hours at night of my email. And I said to her, well, I actually process email once a month. And she kind of turns to me and goes, how is that even possible? Doesn't everything fall apart? I said, no, because what happens is I have someone else doing all the day-to-day emails, and they put maybe 1 or 2 or 3% of the messages that only I can deal with in a folder for me. And if there's anything super urgent, they'll let me know on Slack and I'll deal with that. But most of the time I just go in once a month and process those emails, knowing that I have someone I trust in that inbox. So the logical conclusion was other people would probably benefit, especially entrepreneurs and managers, CEOs, of having their life simplified, breaking free from email. And obviously that's where the idea came from for Inbox Done. So I actually approached my co-founder, Claire, because she was one of my email managers at the time, my email assistants. And I said, listen, want to do an experiment. There might be a business here that we could co-found together. I want to see if we can get a couple of clients and manage their email the same way you manage mine. And if that works and we can make a profit and they're happy with the service and the system we built for me can be built for them for managing their email and their calendar and so on, then we'll roll it out. And we did. We got 2 test clients. One of them was actually still with us almost 4 years later, which is incredible. And we worked with those 2 test clients, and then because it worked, went all in and actually built a business. So we've got about 40 clients now. Some are individuals, some are teams, and we manage email primarily, calendar scheduling. Those 2 things are obviously very linked, and then sort of executive assistant admin type tasks. So if you get an email and that involves adding something to task management software, or forwarding it to your bookkeeper or your webmaster involving other members of your team. Basically, we give you 2 email assistants that integrate with you, integrate with your team, manage your email, manage your inbox, manage your calendar, and work with you on any other admin tasks you want to hand over to them. So, that's kind of in a nutshell what the company does now.
How do you handle the privacy aspect?
Yeah, so the privacy aspect is a few different things. Obviously, we're taking people through a very careful hiring, vetting, and training process. So we know, especially with certain clients, whether it's financial information or medical information in particular as well, we have to be very careful. And sometimes we even go as far as siloing, so we don't see information we should not see. And that could be like a completely separate email account where the financial information goes or the medical information goes. We use a VPN for accessing your computer. Obviously, a little bit of extra technical protection there. We have an NDA in-house. We can also sign an NDA, and we do for some of our clients. They have their own dedicated one. Obviously, we have contracts in place as well. But I think the most important thing is the training we take people through, and also the handover experience that you would go through, Andy, as a client, because we're going to ask you what in your inbox right now, or that you are considering handing over to us, is mission critical. Like, we need to treat this like it has to be very carefully dealt with. We can't have any information leaking. Some of it we maybe shouldn't see. We can sometimes use tools like DocSend as well, so that attachments aren't being viewed by the wrong people, or they can't be forwarded to other people. So we have a lot of things in place, but really it's about us learning what's important to you, and then you getting comfortable handing over and going through that process with us. Because we're not. Yeah, go ahead.
Are email specialists, are the assistants, are they overseas? Are they located do they tend to be in a certain place? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, as you can imagine, when we started hiring for this, we knew the importance of superior written communication, emotional intelligence, attention to detail. I want to be careful here, because I don't want to say people in overseas countries, can't do this, but we've noticed, and my own experience has been the same when I've outsourced, there's certain tasks that are great to hand over to, say, India or the Philippines or Ukraine, where, build a solar power plant. Great programmers in Ukraine. There's great kind of general VAs in the Philippines. India's got great programmers as well. And you can certainly outsource to those places for like $5 an hour and $10 an hour. But with InboxDone, we wanted to really focus on local first. When I say local, North America, so it's predominantly USA-based, remote. Everyone's remote. Even before COVID, they were all remote. We've always had a remote company. But really, it's about that localized English as a first language. And we're only taking on 1 out of every 100 applicants. So we're really looking for a certain type of person who loves written communication. And as you can imagine, we're replying to emails for you as your assistant. So that's important. That's pretty front facing. It's not like just, doing an update to your website or researching something and then giving you the information. This is actually replying to your clients, your customers, your potential clients and customers, your partners. Can even be replying to your family members, So these are all things that we really want to be careful with. So we do have also some Aussies, some Europeans. More often than not, that's for matching with time zones. Some clients want us to be clearing email and checking in and doing work where it just makes sense to have an Australian or a European doing that, especially, for example, with Australian clients. They like having a local person, but it's never low cost labor. So if you go to our website, you'll see we're not charging you $250 a month for this service like a general VA where you're hiring from the Philippines. This is $1,500 a month, but you're getting essentially a local person that we've hired and trained and vetted, and we manage and onboard with you. So it's a different level.
So you were kind of client number 1, even way before this became a business.
Yeah.
What kind of learnings have you had along the way? Any downside?
So, I mean, for me, the fears I had around security and privacy were not nearly as big as I thought. I was more concerned about, will I lose sales? Will they be able to sell what I'm selling as well as I was able to sell what I was selling? That was especially true with my coaching business, because I was selling a course that I created. So it was very easy for me to sell that course and talk about it. I noticed though, and this was a bit of a surprise, it's not instant, but after about 2 or 3 months, for example, if I have a course, I could tell my email assistant, I want you to take this course and just have the knowledge so that you can talk about it with the authority to sell it as well with that level of depth. And over time, your email assistant gets so comfortable with your products, your services, your processes, your materials, that because they're answering questions and dealing with people every day about these things, they actually get better at it than I was, or that you might be as a client. because it's their job. They're doing it every day. So what initially I thought would be a problem, if you give it enough time, actually becomes an advantage, because it is that person's job to do that. And we also build knowledge bases. So I have like 100 templates in my inbox to deal with all these different situations that hit my email. And that takes time as well. But I like that because usually those templates are built from what I already had in place. So I already replied to emails in a certain way. My email assistants took my words. They may have added to it, modified it, adjusted it dynamic to a specific person, but it's the foundation was still my content. So they're kind of trying to clone me or be like me, but be an assistant as well. So I don't know if that's a detriment, but it was like something I was concerned about to begin with. Besides that, maybe, and then this is, again, if you ask me why people struggle to use our service, the biggest problem is the habit of being the person who answers email. I don't know if you kind of struggle with this yourself, Andy, but there is an endorphin release of going through your email and being the one to kind of tick off the box and answer emails. So if you are no longer responsible for that, some people can't let go. They have to feel like they're making progress because they're the one answering their emails, or feel like they understand everything going on in their company because they see absolutely every single email. And if they don't see every single email, something might be missing. They might, they feel out of the loop. And the irony is we're trying to get them out of the loop so they can spend the time on the high value activities, the creative tasks, the innovative tasks, the high level tasks, and not like replying to, where do I find this download? Or can you update this information, which is what your email assistant should be doing. So a bit of it's like a mental habit change you need to make. But once you get past that, and I really feel like there's two types of people, those who really struggle to let go, and those who come to us and say, I never want to go into my inbox ever again. Can you just get me out of there completely? And they're easy. They're just like, here, you do this, and this, and they're gone, writing a book or running their business or exercising or traveling or spending time with family, whatever they wanted to do, that email was keeping them away. So yeah, it can be a difference.
Well, you're selling the dream, as they say. You sell that vision, and it's very, very attractive.
Yeah.
I like that.
I was going to say, Andy, what would you do if you didn't spend that time clearing the 30,000 emails that you were dealing with before, right?
I'm hitting the delete a lot, so.
Okay.
It would be a tremendous time saver. Yeah, I dream about what one could be doing instead of hitting delete so many times. Mm-hmm. I like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
That's changed over the years. Initial success for me was purely financial survival. And I had a goal at one point of making $1,000 a day. It took probably 10 years to get there. And by the time I got there, I didn't realize I'd gotten there until I one day did my accounting. And I was like, oh, if I average that out over the year, I'd made $1,000 a day. And it didn't feel the same as I thought it would feel like at the time I achieved it. And then, you evolve, and part of the equation turned to, like I said earlier in this interview, I'd like to be enjoying what I'm selling, or there's an aspect of my role in this company that I really find fulfilling, not just financially, but creatively, inspirationally, people I interact with. Even today I do a podcast because I enjoy the act of meeting people. And when I say do a podcast, I mean being here with you and doing my own podcast, not just because I want to talk about Inbox Done to promote my company or promote my personal brand, but also because I get to enjoy a topic I care about with someone else who cares about the same topic, and, the intellectual stimulation and all that. So I found that's become as important. And then I think also the freedom aspect has been critical as well. I never had burnout. I never had 16-hour days. And a lot of the entrepreneurs I talked to, there were phases in their careers where they ended up in hospital because of how long, they were working. And for me, I'd seen that happen to other entrepreneurs. As much as I didn't want a 9 to 5, I didn't want a 16-hour day lead to a heart attack kind of business either. So that kind of defines success. But really, ultimately, anyway, I like giving back too. I think what we do is not just because we want to solve problems, which helps people in their lives. And if we can make a lot of money out of it, obviously we can support more people and help more people. That's a big part of it. But I think ultimately, if I really dig down, the answer to this question is, I believed I could do something, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could. Obviously, what that thing was is a moving target as you get older, but it's always like, yeah, I'm capable. Let's put in the effort to make it real and not be lazy or, procrastinate or have fear and choose the easier path or something like that. So that probably, it's the very self-centered version of why I do things and what I define as success.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, sharing your businesses with us. And I think you've achieved your original goal, not to have a boss. And yet it seems that you've been able to strike a balance where you can travel and not have, 16, 20-hour days, that there's a quality of life there. Can you tell the Inspired Money listeners and viewers where to find out more and where to follow you?
Yeah, no, I thank you for having me, Andy. And it's funny when you say that I've achieved that in my business, which is where I want to send people to. It's called inboxdone.com. And, we're an executive assistant service that specializes in email and calendar management, inboxdone.com. That kind of purpose is to also help people break free and, have balance, have simplicity. So it's all kind of linked together in that one big idea. But yes, thank you for having me. And inboxdone.com is the website.
Great. Thanks so much. So what was your favorite Inspired Money moment? Did you notice how Yaro solved his own email problem and then turned it into a scalable business with Inbox Done? I love how he scratched his own itch. I also like how he's diversified his investments by owning different online businesses, making angel investments into young companies, and owning properties in Canada and the Ukraine. Note also how his solar project investment is aligned with his values. If you had a different favorite Inspired Money moment, let me know by posting a comment below. For watching to the end, I want to send you this Inspired Money sticker. Go to inspiredmoney.fm/Andy, send me your name and address, and I'll put this in the mail for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.